3 days later, the Dawn's Promise limped into port at way station Kepler. The journey from the battle site had been tense, with the crew jumping at every sensor reading expecting more Velcrin ships to appear. But no one came. They'd made it to safety. The way station was huge, a massive structure floating in space where dozens of species came to trade, refuel, and rest. Ships from across the galaxy docked here, from small personal craft to enormous cargo haulers. It was one of the few truly neutral zones in this part of space. As the Dawn's Promise approached the docking bay, Hana noticed something strange. "Captain, the other ships are moving away from us. Look at the traffic patterns." She was right. Vessels that had been heading toward nearby docking ports were changing course, giving the human ship a wide berth. It was like watching a school of fish scatter when a shark swam by. "They've heard," Nari said quietly. "Word has spread." "That was fast," Taiho said. "News of humans destroying 3 Velcrin warships? That's not just news, Captain. That's history." The Dawn's Promise docked at Port 17. As soon as the airlock sealed, armed security forces surrounded the ship. But these weren't station security. Taiho recognized the uniforms immediately. "Human Defense Fleet," he said. "This is either very good or very bad for us." The crew gathered at the main airlock. They were exhausted, dirty, and still carrying the weight of combat on their shoulders. Jiho had treated various minor injuries, the worst being a broken arm when Yuna had fallen during an evasive maneuver. They all looked like they'd been through hell. The airlock opened. A man in an admiral's uniform stood waiting, flanked by a dozen Marines in full combat gear. He was older, maybe 60, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His uniform bore the insignia of the Human Defense Fleet's 4th Division. "Captain Taiho," the admiral said. "I'm Admiral Seungho. I need to speak with you and your crew immediately." Taiho saluted. His crew did the same, even those who'd never served in the military. "Yes, sir. Are we in trouble?" Admiral Seungho's stern expression cracked into a small smile. "That depends on your definition of trouble. Follow me." They walked through the station's corridors. Everywhere they went, aliens stopped and stared. Some looked curious. Others looked afraid. A few backed away entirely, pressing themselves against walls as the humans passed. "Do you see what you've done?" Admiral Seungho said as they walked. "The entire galactic community is talking about you. The Velcrin have issued a system-wide alert about human vessels. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session. Trade routes are being rerouted to avoid human space." "I'm sorry, sir," Taiho began. "We were just defending ourselves. They attacked first." The admiral stopped walking and turned to face him. "Sorry, Captain, you misunderstand me. You're not in trouble. You're heroes." The crew exchanged confused glances. Heroes? They'd expected court-martials, accusations of starting an interstellar incident, maybe even imprisonment. Admiral Seungho led them into a conference room. Inside, holographic displays covered every wall, showing news feeds from dozens of different species and planets. Every single one was talking about the same thing, the human ship that had defeated 3 Velcrin warships. "Sit down," the admiral said. "Let me explain what's happening." The crew sat, though they couldn't take their eyes off the displays. There were images of the crippled Velcrin flagship, interviews with Velcrin military officials, and even animated recreations of the battle. "The Velcrin rescued Commander Theshkal and his crew 2 days ago," Admiral Seungho began. "He told them everything exactly as you asked him to, Captain. He described how your ship transformed, how you fought with a ferocity they'd never encountered, how you pursued them even when they tried to retreat. Most importantly, he told them that you had the chance to kill them all but chose mercy instead. We wanted to send a message," Taiho said. "We wanted them to know we'll defend ourselves, but we're not murderers." And that message was received loud and clear, but it had effects you couldn't have anticipated. Admiral Seungho pulled up a star map. "Look at this. These are Velcrin territories. Before your battle, they controlled 72 systems and had raiding agreements with a dozen other species. As of this morning, they've withdrawn from 16 systems and canceled all their raiding operations. They're afraid," Nari said with understanding. "Not just afraid. They're terrified. The Velcrin built their entire empire on intimidation and the belief that they were the strongest predators in this part of space. You proved them wrong in less than an hour." Minho leaned forward. "What about the other species? How are they reacting?" Admiral Seungho pulled up more displays. "Mixed reactions. Some are celebrating. Species that the Velcrin have oppressed for decades are seeing hope for the first time. But others are concerned. The Galactic Council has been asking questions about our defensive capabilities. They want to know how many more cargo ships like yours we have. How many do we have? Yuna asked. Every single civilian ship we've launched into deep space, the Admiral replied. For the past 20 years, every human vessel has carried hidden defensive systems. We learned early that the galaxy wasn't as peaceful as we'd hoped. So we adapted, we prepared, and we kept it secret. Why secret? Jiho asked. If everyone knew we could defend ourselves, maybe they wouldn't attack in the first place. Because fear is a complicated thing, Doctor. If the galaxy had known about our capabilities, they might have banded together to destroy us before we became a threat. We needed time to establish ourselves, to build alliances, to become part of the galactic community. Now that we have, the secret doesn't matter anymore. Admiral Seung-ho looked at Taiho. You forced our hand, Captain, but I think it was the right time. The Admiral pulled up another display. This one showed an official document with seals from the Galactic Council. As of yesterday, humanity has been reclassified. We were a Tier 5 civilization, which meant we were considered barely spacefaring. Now we're Tier 2. We skipped 3 levels? Nari asked in shock. The Council reviewed our technology, our combat capabilities, and our cultural tendencies. They determined that we're far more advanced than our public profile suggested. They're also adding a special classification to Earth. What classification? Taiho asked. Class 12 Death World. The room went silent. Everyone knew what a Death World classification meant. It was a rating for planets that were hostile to life, where survival required exceptional adaptation. Class 12 was one of the highest ratings possible. Earth isn't that dangerous, Hana said. We have weather and some predators, but there are worse planets. It's not about individual dangers, Admiral Seung-ho explained. It's about cumulative pressure. Earth has ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, deadly viruses, megafauna, and competing intelligent species throughout most of our evolutionary history. We didn't just survive all that, we thrived. We spread across every environment on the planet, from deserts to ice caps to deep oceans. We're persistence hunters who can track prey for days. We heal from injuries that would kill most species. We adapt to new situations with remarkable speed. He paused and looked at each of them. Do you understand what I'm saying? By galactic standards, humans are exceptional survivors. You're not stronger than most species, not faster, not smarter, but you refuse to give up. You endure. You persist. And that makes you terrifying to species who've never had to truly fight for their survival. Taiho thought about the battle, about how Jiho and Yuna had jumped into combat roles with no training, about how the crew had kept fighting even when outnumbered, about how they'd pursued the enemy instead of celebrating their survival. The Admiral was right. They hadn't done anything special. They'd just done what humans do. What happens now? Taiho asked. Admiral Seung-ho smiled. Now you go deliver your medical supplies to the Meridian colony. You complete your mission, but you do it in a proper military vessel, not a disguised cargo ship. We're being reassigned. You and your crew are being offered commissions in the Human Defense Fleet, full military status with all the benefits and responsibilities that entails. You've proven you can handle yourselves in combat. We need people like you. He looked around at the others. All of you. This offer extends to the entire crew of the Dawn's Promise. The crew looked at each other. Hana was nodding slowly. Minhyo was grinning. Jiho looked thoughtful. Nari just smiled that cold smile like she'd been waiting for this moment. I'll need to think about it, Taiho said. Can I give you an answer after we complete our current mission? Of course. Take your time. But Captain, I want you to understand something. What you did out there changed everything. The galaxy looked at humans and saw prey, saw weakness, saw a species they could push around. You showed them the truth. We're not prey. We're not weak. And we don't surrender. Admiral Seung-ho stood and the crew stood with him. The galaxy is learning to respect humanity. Some through admiration, some through fear. But respect is respect. You earned that for all of us. After the meeting, the crew walked back through the station to their ship. The stares continued, but they felt different now. Not hostile, not dismissive. Wary, perhaps. Respectful, definitely. Hey, Mino said as they walked. You think they're going to make movies about us? Probably, Nari replied. The Dawn's Promise drifted near the crippled Velcrin flagship, weapons still hot and ready. On the bridge, Taiho studied the enemy ship on his display. It looked pathetic now, all its pride and power stripped away. Fires burned in several sections. Half its hull was blackened from weapon impacts. It was still intact, but barely. "Captain, we're receiving another transmission from the flagship," Una said. She was back at her communications station, still shaking slightly from the adrenaline of combat. "They're repeating their surrender." "Let them wait," Taiho said. He needed to think. This moment mattered more than the battle itself. What he did next would echo across the galaxy. Nari turned in her chair to face him. "Sir, what are your orders?" "We could finish them. One more strike and that flagship won't be a problem anymore." It was tempting. Every instinct from millions of years of human evolution screamed at Taiho to eliminate the threat completely. But he forced himself to think beyond instinct. He was a captain, not just a warrior. "How many life signs on that ship?" he asked. Nari checked her sensors. 217 Velkrins still alive. Many wounded. 217 lives. 217 beings who had families, who had come out here expecting an easy raid and found death instead. Taiho felt no pity for them, but he also felt no need for more killing. "Hana, can their ship still move?" he asked. "Checking now, sir." Hana ran the scans. Their main engines are completely destroyed. They have emergency thrusters only. At best, they could move at about 1% of normal speed. They couldn't escape even if they tried. "Good." Taiho stood up and walked to the front of the bridge. "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to strip that ship of everything except life support. We're going to take their weapons, their engines, their communications, everything. Then we're going to leave them drifting." Nari raised an eyebrow. "You want them to survive?" "I want them to be found," Taiho corrected. "I want other Velkrin ships to find them and hear their story. I want everyone in this sector to know what happens when you attack a human ship." Understanding dawned on Nari's face, and she smiled that cold smile again. Dead ships don't tell tales. But survivors? Survivors spread fear. "Exactly," Jiho's voice came through the comm from the observation deck. "Captain, this is Jiho. I have a medical question. If we leave them drifting, how long until they run out of supplies?" "Good thinking, Jiho. How long, Nari?" Nari ran calculations. "With life support only and that many people, they have enough air for about 10 days. Water and food for maybe 5. "And how long until a Velkrin patrol comes through this area?" "This is a known Velkrin trade route. I'd estimate 2 to 3 days. Perfect. The timing would work." "Open a channel to the flagship," Taiho ordered. Una pressed buttons on her console. "Channel open, sir." "Velkrin flagship, this is Captain Taiho. You surrendered and we accept. Here are the terms. You will open your airlocks and allow our boarding teams to come aboard. You will not resist. We will remove your weapon systems, your engine components, and your communication arrays. We will leave your life support intact. You will drift here until your people find you. If you resist, we will destroy your ship and leave no survivors. Do you understand?" There was a long pause. Then Theshkal's voice came through, defeated and tired. "We understand. We will comply, but why? Why not just kill us all?" Taiho considered the question. "Because you need to tell your people what happened here. You need to tell them that humans don't surrender. You need to tell them that we defend ourselves. And you need to tell them that attacking human ships is a very, very bad idea." Another pause. "I will tell them," Teshkal said quietly. "They will not believe it, but I will tell them." "They'll believe it when they see your ship," Taiho replied. Then he cut the transmission. The next 2 hours were busy. Minho led a boarding team onto the Velkrin flagship, accompanied by 6 crew members armed with emergency weapons. The Velkrin didn't resist. They sat in their stations or in the corridors, watching silently as the humans stripped their ship. Minho worked with efficient precision. He pulled out the weapons control modules, cut the connections to the torpedo launchers, and removed the power couplings from the energy cannons. Then he moved to engineering and began removing the hyperspace drive components. Every piece that could make the ship dangerous or mobile he took. "These systems are impressive," Minho commented over the comm. "Their technology is actually pretty advanced. It's just that they don't know how to use it properly. They rely on intimidation instead of actual combat skill." "Can you use any of it?" Taiho asked. "Maybe. I'll take what I can carry. The rest will destroy." While Minho worked, Jiho moved through the ship's medical bay. He treated injured Velkrin, working quickly and professionally. Some of the aliens flinched away from him, afraid of the human who had been shooting at them an hour ago. But Jiho's hands were gentle as he bandaged wounds and set broken limbs. "Why do you help us?" one young Velkrin asked. his voice translated by a small device. "We tried to kill you. I'm a doctor," Jiho replied simply. "Helping people is what I do. Even people who tried to kill me." The young Velkrin stared at him with multiple eyes full of confusion. Humans made no sense. They fought like demons but healed like angels. What kind of species was this? Back on the Dawn's Promise, Nari monitored the boarding operation and kept watch for any other ships. The area was clear, but she stayed alert. Years of military service had taught her to never relax until you were safely home. "Captain, we're picking up a transmission from the edge of the system," she suddenly announced. "It's a Velkrin distress beacon. The flagship sent it out before we jammed their communications." Tejo felt his blood run cold. "Who's responding?" "Scanning now." Nari worked her console. "I'm picking up hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships incoming. Velkrin military vessels, heavy class." She looked up at Tejo, her face serious. "We're looking at 6 ships, sir." "Maybe more. They'll be here in 20 minutes." The bridge went silent. 6 more Velkrin warships. They'd barely survived against 3. What could they do against 6? But then Hana spoke up from navigation, her voice surprisingly calm. "Captain, the Meridian colony is only 2 hours away at full speed. We could run. We've done what we needed to do here." "Our boarding team is still on the flagship," Tejo said. "Minho?" Tejo called over the comm. "How much longer do you need?" From the Velkrin ship, Minho's voice came back. "Give me 10 minutes to finish these demolitions and we'll be ready to evacuate." 10 minutes. With 6 ships arriving in 20. It would be close, but they could make it. "All boarding team members, you have 10 minutes, Tejo announced. "Complete your objectives and return to the ship. We have incoming hostiles." The humans on the Velkrin flagship worked faster. Minho placed small charges on critical systems, just enough to ensure they couldn't be easily repaired. Jiho finished treating the last wounded Velkrin. The others gathered the components they'd removed and carried them back to the airlocks. On the Velkrin bridge, Theshkal watched the humans prepare to leave. "More ships are coming," he said to the human captain over the comm. "You should run." "We are," Tejo replied. "But first, one last thing. I want you to do something for me, Commander." "What?" "When your ships arrive and you tell them what happened here, I want you to be completely honest. Don't exaggerate. Don't make excuses. Tell them exactly how one human cargo ship defeated 3 Velkrin warships. Tell them we didn't use any special technology, just standard defensive systems. Tell them we fought not because we were stronger, but because we refused to surrender." Theshkal was quiet for a moment. "Why does this matter to you?" "Because the next time a Velkrin ship sees a human vessel, I want them to remember your story. I want them to think twice. I want them to choose peace instead of violence." Tejo paused. "Your people aren't evil, Commander. You're just used to being the strongest. But you're not anymore. The sooner you learn that, the fewer ships will end up like yours." "I will tell them," Theshkal said. "I don't know if they will listen, but I will tell them. That's all I ask." "Good luck, Commander." The last of the boarding team scrambled back through the airlock. Minho was the last one aboard, carrying a heavy bag of Velkrin technology components. The airlock sealed behind him. "All personnel accounted for," Nari reported. "Hana, get us out of here," Tejo ordered. "Maximum speed to the Meridian colony." "Yes, sir." The Dawn's Promise turned away from the crippled flagship and accelerated into the darkness. Behind them, the Velkrin ship drifted alone, a broken monument to the day they learned humanity's true nature. 18 minutes later, 6 Velkrin warships arrived in the system. They found their flagship powerless and adrift, and they found Commander Theshkal alive to tell his tale, a tale that would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Dawn's Promise surged forward like a hunting wolf. Her engines burned bright as Minho pushed them past their normal limits. The ship vibrated with power, every system focused on one goal: catch the prey. On the Velkrin flagship, Theshkal watched his rear sensors with growing horror. The human ship was following. Not just following, but chasing them with an intensity he'd never seen before. "Why are they pursuing?" his tactical officer asked, confused. "We're retreating to regroup. That's standard combat procedure. They should let us withdraw." "I don't think they care about standard procedure," Theshkal said quietly. He was beginning to understand something terrible. These humans didn't think like other species. They didn't fight to establish dominance or protect territory. They fought to win, completely and totally. On the human ship, Nari studied her tactical display. "Sir, if we pursue, we'll be leaving our defensive position. The other 2 Velkrin ships could flank us. It's a risk, Calculated risk, Tejo replied. They wanted to hunt us. Now we show them what real hunting looks like. Hana looked back from her navigation station, her earlier fear replaced by something fiercer. Captain, I can overtake their flagship in 3 minutes if I push the engines. Do it. The Dawn's promise accelerated. In the engine room, Minho watched his displays with wild joy. He was pulling power from systems that the ship's designers never intended to be used simultaneously. The reactor was running hot, nearly redlining, but it was holding. Come on, baby, he whispered to the ship. Show them what Earth engineering can do. The gap between the ships closed. 2 minutes. 1 minute. 30 seconds. Weapons range in 10 seconds, Nari announced. Targeting their engines. Fire at will. Bright beams of energy reached out across space and hit the Velcrin flagship's engine pods. Explosions blossomed along the ship's rear. The flagship shuddered and began to slow down. Direct hit, Nari called out. Their engines are damaged. They're losing speed, but the flagship wasn't alone. The 2 other Velcrin warships had turned around and were now racing to help their commander. They came at the Dawn's promise from different angles, weapons blazing. Multiple contacts, Hana warned. They're trying to box us in. This was the critical moment. Most species would break off the pursuit, would return to safety. But Taiho looked at the tactical display and saw something different. He saw an opportunity. Jiho, status on Weapon Station 7? Taiho asked. From the observation deck, Jiho responded quickly. Charged and ready, sir. I've been practicing. I think I'm getting the hang of this. Good. Target the ship coming from the left. Yuna, I need you to leave communications and take Weapon Station 4. Yuna's eyes went wide. Sir, I've never fired a weapon before. Neither had Jiho an hour ago. You'll figure it out. We all will. That was the thing about humans. They adapted. They learned. They did what needed to be done, training or not. Yuna left her station and ran to the weapons console. Her hands shook as she sat down, but they steadied as she gripped the controls. I'm ready, she said. The 3 Velcrin ships and the 1 human ship met in a storm of fire. Energy beams crossed in the darkness. Missiles streaked between vessels. Shields flared and sparked. It was chaos, beautiful and terrible. But in the chaos, the humans had an advantage. They weren't fighting for honor or following ancient combat rituals. They were fighting to survive, and survival was something humans understood better than any species in the galaxy. Hit on our forward shields, Nari reported. Down to 60%. But I've taken out the flagship's main weapons. They're defenseless. I keep hitting them, Taiho ordered. Jiho, Yuna, focus on the other 2 ships. Keep them busy. From his improvised weapon station, Jiho fired continuously. He wasn't hitting much, but he didn't need to. Every shot he fired made the Velcrin ships maneuver, made them worry, made them split their attention. And that was enough. Yuna was doing better. Her second shot hit one of the Velcrin ships right on their shield generator. The shield flickered and died, leaving the ship vulnerable. I got one, Yuna shouted with surprise and delight. Their shields are down. Nari, finish them, Tejo commanded. Nari didn't hesitate. She redirected fire from the flagship to the unshielded ship. Her targeting was perfect. Years of military training guiding every shot. The beams hit the Velcrin ship's hull directly, cutting through armor like it was paper. Explosions rippled across the ship's surface. Then a massive blast as something critical was hit. The ship broke apart, pieces tumbling through space. 1 down, Nari said calmly. 2 to go. On the remaining functional Velcrin ship, the captain made a decision. He'd seen enough. His flagship was crippled. His sister ship was destroyed. And these humans just kept coming, kept fighting, kept refusing to stop. He opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Velmoth of the secondary warship. All vessels execute emergency jump protocols. We're leaving, now, no, Deshikel shouted from the flagship. We can still win. We outnumber them. Look at your screens, Commander. Look at what they've done to us. These humans are insane. They don't fight like anyone else. If we stay, we all die. The secondary warship's jump engines began to spin up, gathering energy for a hyperspace jump. It would take 30 seconds to charge. 30 seconds during which they would be vulnerable. Minho saw it on his sensors. Captain, one of them is trying to jump away. Can we stop them? Tejo asked. I can jam their jump coordinates, Minho said, his fingers already moving. But if I do, their jump will fail. And when a hyperspace jump fails, everyone on the bridge knew what happened when a jump failed. The ship would tear itself apart, caught between normal space and hyperspace. It was a horrible way to die. Do it, Tejo said. His voice was hard. They started this fight. Let them learn what it costs to attack humanity. Minho activated the jamming signal. On the Velcrin ship, alarms began to blare. The jump calculations were wrong, corrupted by the human jamming. But it was too late to stop. The engines had already engaged. The Velcrin ship began to stretch, pulled in two directions at once. Pieces of it phased in and out of normal space. Then, with a flash of light that lit up the entire area, the ship exploded. It was a spectacular death, debris spreading in all directions. 2 down, Nari said. That left only the flagship, crippled, weaponless, and alone. Commander Theshikal sat in his command chair, watching the human ship approach. He'd made a terrible mistake. He'd thought humans were like the other prey species, weak, easily frightened, quick to surrender. He'd been so very wrong. They're hailing us, his communications officer said quietly. Put them through. Captain Taiho's face appeared on the screen. He looked calm, but his eyes were cold. Velcrin flagship, this is your last chance. Surrender now. Power down all systems except life support. If you try to fight, try to run, or try anything else, we will destroy you. Theshkal felt shame burn through him. His species had never surrendered. They were the hunters, the strong, the feared. But looking at this human captain, he realized something. His species had never faced a true predator before. We surrender, Theshkal said, the words like poison in his mouth. Smart choice, Taiho replied. Then the screen went dark. On the bridge of the Dawn's Promise, the crew was silent. They'd won. Against 3 warships, they'd won. It didn't seem real. Damage report, Taiho finally said. Shields at 40%, Nari reported. Some hull damage on decks 3 and 4. Minor injuries reported, but nothing serious. All critical systems operational. Casualties? None, sir. We didn't lose anyone. Taiho let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. They'd survived. More than survived, they'd won decisively. But he knew this was just the beginning. The Velcrin would report this battle. Word would spread. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. The change happened in seconds, but to everyone watching, it felt like magic. The outer hull of the Dawn's Promise began to shift. What looked like simple cargo containers split apart with mechanical precision. Hidden panels slid open, revealing rows of weapons that shouldn't exist on a civilian vessel. Point defense turrets emerged from the sides. Missile ports opened like angry eyes. The entire ship seemed to grow larger as armor plating extended from hidden compartments. On the Velcrin flagship, Commander Theshikal stared at his screens in confusion. What is happening? What is that ship doing? His sensor officer clicked his mandibles nervously. Sir, I'm reading massive power spikes. Their reactor output just increased by 300%. And those are military-grade weapons. Impossible. Our intelligence said human cargo ships were unarmed. Our intelligence was wrong, sir. On the Dawn's Promise, Nari watched her tactical display with satisfaction. The transformation was complete. Every hidden system was now online and ready. She'd waited years for this moment. Years of pretending to be a simple tactical officer on a boring cargo run. All weapons hot, Captain, she reported. Defense grid is active. Countermeasures ready. We are fully combat capable, Taiho nodded. Target their weapons systems. Fire when ready. The Velcrin had launched 6 plasma torpedoes, big glowing balls of superheated death that could punch through a ship's hull like paper. They were moving fast, closing the distance. The Velcrin crew was already celebrating their easy victory. But Nari pressed a button and the point defense turrets opened fire. Bright streams of energy lanced out from the Dawn's Promise. Each turret tracked a torpedo with computer-guided precision. The first torpedo exploded in a brilliant flash, then the second. Then all 6, one after another, like fireworks in the darkness of space. Direct hits on all targets, Nari said calmly. No damage to our ship. On the Velcrin flagship, alarms began to sound. Theshkal couldn't believe what he was seeing. They shot down our torpedoes. All of them? How? Sir, they're returning fire. The Dawn's Promise wasn't just defending anymore. From her newly revealed weapons ports, bright beams of energy shot out. They crossed the space between the ships in an instant and slammed into the Velcrin flagship's shields. The Velcrin shields flickered and sparked. They were designed to stop attacks from other warships, ships that would fire slowly and carefully. But Nari wasn't firing slowly. She was firing everything at once, overwhelming the shield generators with pure power. Their shields are at 60%, Nari reported. 50%. 40%. Keep firing, Taeho ordered. In the engine room, Minho was laughing as he worked. His hands moved across the control panels, redirecting power from systems they didn't need to systems they did. Life support was running at minimum. Gravity was set to emergency levels. Every spare watt of power was flowing to weapons and shields. Captain, I've got us running at 130% combat efficiency, Minho called out. These Velcrin idiots weren't even ready for a fight. Their shields are barely raised. It was true. The Velcrin had expected an easy target. They hadn't powered up their full defensive systems. They hadn't charged their main weapons. They'd thought this would be over in minutes, just another routine raid. They were learning how wrong they were. Sir, the second Velcrin ship is moving to flank us, Hana warned from navigation. Despite her fear, she was doing her job perfectly, tracking every enemy movement. Let them come, Taeho said. Nari, split your fire. Keep pressure on the flagship and hit the second ship as it approaches. Yes, sir. Nari's fingers danced across her controls. She'd trained for this her entire military career. Before taking this civilian job, she'd served on the front lines of the border wars. She'd fought in battles where human ships were outnumbered 10-1. 3 Velcrin warships? This was nothing. The Dawn's Promise fired from multiple angles. Beams hit the flagship while missiles streaked toward the second ship. The Velcrin were scrambling now, trying to bring their full weapons online, trying to coordinate their attack. But coordination required practice. The Velcrin had raided hundreds of ships, but they'd never really fought. Not against an enemy that fought back. Not against an enemy that wanted to win. Their flagship is hailing us again, Yuna said. Ignore it, Taeho replied. We're done talking. On the Velcrin flagship, Theshkal was shouting orders. His crew was panicking. This wasn't supposed to happen. Prey didn't fight back. Prey didn't have hidden weapons. Prey didn't attack with this kind of fury. All ships concentrate fire on the human vessel, Theshkal commanded. Destroy them now. The 3 Velcrin warships finally began working together. Plasma torpedoes, energy beams, and kinetic missiles all launched at once. The space around the Dawn's Promise filled with deadly fire. Incoming, Nari called out. Multiple weapons, all vectors. Evasive maneuvers, Taeho ordered. Hana's hands flew across the navigation controls. The Dawn's Promise rolled and dove, moving like a dancer instead of a cargo ship. Some weapons missed entirely. Others hit the shields, which flared bright but held strong. Shields at 80%, Nari reported. We can take this. Return fire, full spread, Taeho commanded. The Dawn's Promise fired back with everything. The bridge shook with the recoil. Lights flickered. But the weapons kept firing, kept hitting, kept pushing the Velcrin back. In the medical bay, Jiho held onto a table as the ship shook. He'd been a doctor for 10 years, had served on colony worlds and space stations, but he'd never been in combat before. Never felt the ship move like this, never heard the sound of weapons firing. But instead of fear, he felt something else. Something old and primal. His ancestors had fought for survival on Earth, had faced predators and disasters and impossible odds. That ancient instinct was waking up inside him. Jiho left the medical bay and ran to an empty weapons console on the observation deck. He sat down and looked at the controls. They were labeled in simple Korean. Point, target, fire. He could do this. Medical Officer Jiho reporting, he said into his comm. I'm taking Weapon Station 7. Jiho, what are you doing? That was Nari's voice, surprised. You're not trained for combat. I'm human, Jiho replied, his voice steady. I've been training for this my entire evolutionary history. Just tell me where to shoot. On the bridge, Taeho smiled. That was the human spirit right there. A doctor who'd never fired a weapon in his life, stepping up because that's what humans did. They adapted. They fought. They survived. Welcome to the fight, Jiho, Taeho said. Target the 3rd ship. Hit them with everything you've got. Yes, sir. The battle raged on. The Velcrin were stronger, bigger, better armed. But they were learning a terrible lesson. Humans didn't fight by the galaxy's rules. Humans didn't calculate odds and surrender when outmatched. Humans fought with everything they had and they never stopped. Sir, the flagship is trying to retreat, Nari called out. They're breaking formation. Taeho leaned forward in his chair. This was the moment. The Velcrin expected them to let the enemy regroup, to pause the fight, to follow the normal rules of galactic combat, but humans didn't follow those rules. All power to engines, Tai-Ho ordered, his voice cold as ice. We're going after them. The cargo ship Dawn's Promise moved through the darkness of space like a small fish in a vast ocean. Inside the bridge, Captain Tai-Ho sat in his command chair, watching the stars on the main screen. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't mind. These long trips through the outer rim were always quiet. Captain, we're 3 hours from the Meridian colony, said Hana from the navigation station. She was young, only 24, and this was her first deep space assignment. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. Tai-Ho nodded. Good work, Hana. Let's hope they appreciate the medical supplies we're bringing. I heard the fever outbreak is pretty bad. Behind him, Nari stood at the tactical station. She was older than most of the crew, with gray streaks in her dark hair. Her eyes never left her screens. Old habits died hard, and Nari had many old habits from her years in the military. Sir, I'm picking up something on long-range sensors, Nari said. Her voice was calm, but Tai-Ho heard the edge in it. He'd learned to trust that edge. What is it? 3 ships, big ones. They just dropped out of hyperspace. Nari's fingers flew across her console. They're moving to surround us. Tai-Ho stood up. His heart began to beat faster, but his face stayed calm. A captain couldn't show fear. Can you identify them? Yes, sir. They're Velcrin warships. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about the Velcrin. They were raiders who attacked weak ships and took everything. Cargo, supplies, sometimes even the crew to sell as slaves. They were like space pirates, but worse. Much worse. All hands, this is the captain. Tai-Ho spoke into the ship-wide comm. We have a situation. Everyone to battle stations. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, 37 people stopped what they were doing. In the engine room, Minho looked up from his repairs. In the medical bay, Jiho put down his tablet. They all knew what battle stations meant, even on a cargo ship. It meant trouble was coming. The 3 Velcrin warships moved closer. They were huge compared to the Dawn's Promise. Their hulls were dark red, covered in spikes and weapon ports. They looked like predators designed to scare their prey before the kill. They're hailing us, said Yuna from communications. She was trying to keep her voice steady, but Tai-Ho could hear the fear. Put them through. The main screen changed. A Velcrin commander appeared, his face a mass of clicking mandibles and multiple eyes. When he spoke, the computer translated his words into Korean. Human vessel, this is Commander Theshkal of the Velcrin Empire. You are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Transfer all cargo to our ships. Your crew will evacuate in life pods. If you comply, you will not be harmed. If you resist, you will be destroyed. You have 2 minutes to decide. The screen went dark. Tai-Ho looked around his bridge. Hana looked terrified. Yuna was shaking slightly. Even Minho, watching from the engine room through a camera feed, looked worried. But Nari was smiling. It was a small, cold smile that Tai-Ho had seen before. Recommendations? Tai-Ho asked his crew. Sir, we can't fight 3 warships, Hana said quickly. We're a cargo vessel. We barely have weapons. The life pods are ready, Yuna added. We could evacuate. Live to fly another day. Tai-Ho walked to the front of the bridge. He looked at the 3 warships on the screen. They were waiting, confident. They had done this hundreds of times before. They expected surrender. Everyone always surrendered to the Velcrin. But Tai-Ho was thinking about something else. He was thinking about his grandfather, who had fought in the border wars. He was thinking about his mother, who had survived the colony massacre. He was thinking about every human who had ever faced impossible odds and chose to fight anyway. Nari, he said quietly, what are our real capabilities? Nari's smile grew wider. You want to know what we can really do, sir? Yes, more than they think. Much more. Tai-Ho took a deep breath. Every human ship, even the cargo vessels, carried secrets. The galaxy didn't know it. But humanity had learned long ago never to travel unprepared. The Dawn's Promise looked like a simple cargo ship, but looks could be deceiving. Open a channel to the Velcrin, Tai-Ho ordered. Yuna pressed a button. Channel open, sir. Tai-Ho spoke clearly and slowly. Velcrin warships, this is Captain Tai-Ho of the human vessel Dawn's Promise. We have received your demand. Here is our response, negative. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this area, or we will consider your presence a hostile act. For a moment, there was silence. Then the Velcrin commander appeared on screen again. He was making a sound that the computer translated as laughter. You refuse? You are one small ship. We are 3 warships. You have no weapons that can harm us. You are prey, human. Accept your fate. 20 seconds, Tejo said. More laughter from the Velcrin. Your species is even more foolish than we thought. We will take your ship and your crew. You will serve as an example to others who think about resisting. 10 seconds. The laughter stopped. Theshikal's eyes narrowed. You are serious? You truly choose death over surrender? 5 seconds, then die, fool. The screen went dark. Sir, they're charging weapons, Nari called out. Multiple plasma torpedoes. They're preparing to fire. Tejo sat back in his command chair. He felt strangely calm. This moment had been coming since humanity first reached the stars. The galaxy saw humans as weak, as prey, as easy targets. It was time to teach them a lesson. Nari, prepare Protocol Omega. Nari's fingers moved to a special panel on her console. A red cover flipped up, revealing a handprint scanner. Ready, sir? Minho, how's the power? From the engine room, Minho's voice came through, excited and eager. All systems at full capacity, Captain. Just say the word. Taiho placed his hand on his own scanner. Authorization code, Taiho 7 Crimson. Execute Protocol Omega. Show them what humans really are. With pleasure, sir, Nari said. She pressed the button, and the Dawn's promise woke up.